very much, Chair of the IEBC selection panel. Thank you, distinguished members of the panel. Chair, I'm happy to be referred to by whatever is convenient to a particular member at a particular moment, so that's not an issue for me. Let me begin, Chair and distinguished members of the panel, by appreciating that I have been given this opportunity to interview for the office that I have applied for, by way of being shortlisted and being given this opportunity to appear before you this afternoon. My name is Charles Nyachae. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya for the last over 30 years. I began my career as a state counsel in the office of the Attorney General. I was there briefly for about 2 years, after which I ventured into practice, private practice, by establishing a law firm with another colleague. We were both young lawyers. And I practiced law privately between 1986 up to the end of 2010, when I took leave of absence from the law firm. During the time that I practiced law, personally, I was more a non-litigation lawyer. I rarely did litigation. I mainly did commercial work and things like banking law, property, insurance, that sort of area, although the law firm was and remains a general law firm. I'm still on leave of absence from the law firm. End of 2010, as members of the panel, of course, will remember in August of 2010, the people of Kenya gave to themselves a then new constitution, the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And one of the bodies that was established by that constitution was a transitional body known as a Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution, whose main role was to coordinate and oversee the implementation of the 2010 Constitution. When the time came for Kenyans to apply to that body, I did apply, and I was privileged to have been given the opportunity to serve as chairperson of that commission, which I did from end of 2010 to the end of 2015. During the period during the period while I was practicing law, aside from the mainstream practice of law, in the late 1980s, I got interested in and gradually became passionate about the then reform process that was taking place in this country. And between that period, all the time that I was practicing law, I engaged often quite intimately with the reform process, the democratization process, through mainly institutions like the Law Society of Kenya, where I served as a member of the council. I also engaged in the process of reform and democratization within the context of non-governmental organizations, and in particular the the international ICJ, the International Commission of Jurists, of which I was an active member, and the Kenya section, I chaired for a while. The focus on rule of law and the promotion of democracy. I also was invited by the late Senior Counsel Grace Githu to join her together with some other members to found an NGO called the Institute for Education in Democracy, where I was a member, and at some point I chaired the IED. I was, allow me to say, I was privileged to work with one of the panelists, Dr. Koki Muli. I learned a lot in that context on everything that surrounds elections, electoral processes, electoral reforms. It gave me a good insight. I would never pretend that, like Dr. Muli, I didn't become an expert, but I got a deep insight, and that helped me to understand the processes and to develop also an interest in the whole electoral process and the management of elections. So, Mr. Chair, members of the panel, I go back then to beginning of 2011. I, with 8 other colleagues, we served as members of the Commission for the implementation of the Constitution. Basically, I can say because that was a commission that had just been established as a transitional mechanism by the Constitution, started it from scratch. I thank God that I had a good team, and I think by and large, when we look back, we think we did a decent job at the Commission in terms of mainly working with the other mandated bodies like the Attorney General, Parliament, and the various stakeholders to write laws to implement the 2010 Constitution. And in that process, I feel that my passion for the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which passion had started in the campaign to get a new constitution, I feel that in those 5 years, my passion grew even higher, and that passion of that constitution, Mr. Chairman, members of the panel, continues to date. So, not to take too long, we served until the end of 2015 when the term of the commission came to an end. After I left CIC, after a small break, I took a brief but unsuccessful excursion into elective politics, but it was a good experience. It helped me also to understand politics at a more ground-based level. In February of 2018, I was appointed to be a judge of the East African Court of Justice, an appointment which took effect from the 1st of July of 2018. I served on that court for a period of 5.5 years. The term was, my term was for 7 years, but for reasons which, if the panel wishes me to explain, I will explain. I did not finish the 7 years. I left in January of 2024. and came back to Kenya because the court is based in Arusha, Tanzania. And I came back to do my own private things, a little bit of consultancy, a little bit of writing, a little bit of studying. In the meantime, soon after I came back, I was appointed to chair the council of the Kenya School of Government, where I still am as chair of the council. Of course, I think it's probably necessary to state that if I were to find favor with this panel, as well as the appointing authority, then obviously to comply with the law, I would, before appointment, relinquish that position. Mr. Chairman, I maybe will pause there in terms of who I am and await further questions from you and the panel.
Just as a follow-up of that introduction,
yes,
it would be nice for you to highlight one or two successes that you had with CIC.
Yes.
And what you think are regrets from that stint that you had,
yes,
that follows us up to now.
Yes.
The laws that you think you ought to have done and you didn't do, and the country may be suffering from that failure or absence of those laws.
Thank you, Chairman. Most of the laws that the Constitution required to be enacted were actually enacted. We worked well with the Attorney General. We worked well with the Kenya Law Reform Commission and the various government departments where the laws originated from. So what I would say, while we wrote most of these laws, I think I can honestly say that there are one or two of them, because of the process where these laws eventually had to pass through cabinet and then be taken to the National Assembly so that they could be enacted. I do have one or two that personally, and I think most of my colleagues felt that collectively, not just CIC, collectively, including those bodies that I have mentioned, we probably fell short of the mark. Examples, for example, the laws to implement Chapter 6 of the Constitution were, in our view, between leaving CIC and the time that they go to Parliament and were enacted in Parliament. In our view, CIC were quite significantly watered down. But then you see it's Parliament that had and still has the constitutional mandate to actually legislate. There are other laws we passed and which faced some resistance and indeed maybe even up to date, maybe because of a lack of will. The best example I can give, which actually touches on the delivery of IEBC's mandate, would be the campaign finance law, which, of course, initially Parliament suspended its effect. Eventually it was passed. There has been an issue with regulations to give effect to that. I'm still hopeful that whoever goes to the commission at IEBC because this is an important part of the electoral process, can actually push and negotiate with the executive, with parliament, with all stakeholders, so that that law, so many years down the line, is actually passed, so that the intent of the constitution is achieved.
So we can blame you for that. Can we also blame you for 2/3 gender rule and referendum laws, their absence?
You can probably ask my colleagues and I to share some blame on, say, like the referendum law. But Chairman and members of the panel, without running away, the laws were not initiated by CIC. The laws were initiated by the executive. So if a law was not initiated by the executive, there's very little that as CIC we could do. What I would more readily accept blame for, and I think it's just a question of benefit of hindsight, there are laws when we look back, including even the Elections Act, but that's just a question of hindsight is always 2020, and one of the unfortunate, regrettable things was that Parliament had the option to extend the life of the Commission, and we even, as commissioners at that time, offered to Parliament that, look, if there's an issue with the commissioners, us, we are ready to, because our term is coming to an end, but we think that you should do one of two things. Either extend the mandate of CIC, which the Constitution gives you the power to do, or if you don't want to extend the mandate of CIC, then identify another body and find a way of giving it a constitutional underpinning. And here we were probably looking at something like the Kenya Law Reform Commission, because it would have been important to have a body that continued to review the laws and look at anything that may have fallen through the process. And as I say, hindsight is always perfect vision. And if that had happened, I dare say that some of the laws now, not just around the elections, but generally, which have issues, those issues would have been probably addressed by now.
Fair enough. My final question on the introduction is, this is a very onerous position you're asking for. You resigned from a judicial position that does not have a similar pressure like this. Are we going to have our chairman resign before end of day?
Chair and members of the panel, not at all. Allow me to explain in a couple of minutes why I resigned from the East African Court of Justice. The East African Court of Justice is established as the judicial organ of the East African community. It's an ad hoc court, means it's not full-time, and it operates to a certain calendar. I think it is not unfair for me to say, because I think it's a matter of public notoriety, that the East African community for the last few years has struggled almost to the point of becoming dysfunctional. So that you had a situation where you have an ad hoc court with a calendar, 4 sessions in a year. Each session, as it approaches, is cancelled because there are financial issues within the community. And when this happened for practically the whole of 2023, I said to myself, I'm not being fair to myself. I'm not being fair to the people of East Africa, because all this time, Chair and members of the panel, every month I am earning $2,000 for doing nothing, because it's called the intersessional something that you get paid every month. So I thought long and hard, and I decided that I was not adding value to the people of East Africa by remaining in a court which is hardly operating. So I then took the step of bringing my concerns to the appointing authority, who the President of the Republic of Kenya, and saying, this is not working. I really would appreciate if I can get the opportunity to resign and do other things.
Enough.
And that's why. So the answer to your question is I do not anticipate those sort of problems if you are to give me the chance to be chair of the commission, so the issue wouldn't arise.
So if Parliament doesn't approve budget that you present, will you be pushed to do?
You see, Chairperson, I do not foresee a day when the commission will actually grind to zero, not able to operate at all. What could happen if there are delays or budget cuts and so on is that there are certain parts of the mandate which, but a day, I do not anticipate a day when Parliament will completely, there is no, which is what was happening in Arusha. There is no money, and it wasn't so much about the money. It is a question of what then am I doing here? You see, most of my colleagues, the judges of the East African Court of Justice, are also judges in the national court, their respective national courts. So if you put off the session, it's a bit inconvenient, but they just go on. There is a service they're delivering in the national courts. For those of us who are not engaged at the national level, but just went there on that ad hoc basis, I felt that it was not right to continue, especially, as I say, when you're continuing to earn an intersessional allowance and you're doing nothing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Linda, please. Kindly.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Justice Nyachae, the IEBC Commission constitutes of different professionals from different backgrounds, your background being the legal field. But the Act itself envisages a composition of a commission that has very diverse skills and disciplines. And save for law, which is your professional background, what other skills and disciplines do you bring into this commission as a chairperson?
Thank you. I think I would answer that at two levels. In terms of skills and disciplines, my formal qualification is law. I have taken it upon myself and developed over a period of time. I have developed an interest in governance, and actually I am a student